Hey everyone, welcome to Simplilearn. Today we will learn the top 20 data analytics interview questions and answers. Whether you're a learner getting started with data analytics or an enthusiast trying to crack an interview to build your career, you need to understand this holy trinity of data analytics: data cleaning, data manipulation, and data visualization. These are the spines and brains of data analytics, and every data analytics interview you attend will definitely be based on these requirements. So, in today's session, let's go through a few of them. Imagine you get a dump of data from the website and you need to clean it and process it for analytics, and you don't know how to do it. Even if an AI tool helps you out through this, maybe say your organization had an automation, or you got smart and used generative AI to help you, there always exists a variety of requirements from your client. Say, these customized requirements from your client might need additional arithmetic and logical operations to drill a little into the data. So your interview questions most frequently are based on and around these scenarios. And today, we will try the same with a little bit of theory and practicals. That's it. If these are the type of videos you'd like to watch, then hit that like and subscribe buttons. And now, without further delay, let's get started with the top 20 data analytics interview questions and answers. So, as said, we will begin with the theory questions first, and later in the second half of this particular set of interview questions, we will deal with the practical questions. So, the first one in the theory-based interview questions is this one. What is the difference between database and a data warehouse? So, the answer for this question is as follows. A database is an organized collection of structured data used for transactional operations supporting CRUD, which is create, read, update, and delete operations. And on the other hand, a data warehouse is a centralized repository optimized for data analytics processing, aggregating data from multiple sources for reporting and decision making. Now, going into the second question. So these are the typical questions you can expect most frequently. So how do you handle missing values in a dataset? So let me elaborate that a little bit for you. Let's say you have school data for 30 students from a single class. And all of those 30 students will have their roll numbers, names, subjects, marks, etc. Now let's say one or two of the students out of the 30 students did not attend the semester exams. So they have been marked as absent. Let's say the columns will have float data, and all of a sudden you encounter some data which is alphabetical. Let's say you have marked those students with the letter A to help you recognize that these students were absent. And if you perform some data analytics over that particular data set, let's say this is a sample data set, then you cannot proceed with that particular invalid entry. Let's say instead of adding an alphabetic number, you added something like NA or not present or NP, something like that, which is also not the kind of data you're looking for. And you decide to just leave that data as blank, right? In such scenarios where you have an invalid entry or a value missing or a different data type, that particular situation is called as missing values or invalid data entries. So how do you handle that particular scenario? Now the answer for this question is drop missing values if they are not significant. In particular with Python, you can use dataframe.dropNA function. And if you're going with other models, then impute missing values with mean or median. Let's say you wanted to find out a mean value out of all the entries in the dataset, and you can add that particular mean value or average value in that particular empty cell. Mode for categorical data, forward or backward fill time series data, and predictive modeling, which is KNN and regression. And lastly, mark them as a separate category used in categorical variables. Now proceeding ahead with the third question, write a SQL query to find the second highest salary from an employee table. Now you don't need an exact data set for this particular one. You don't have to create a table, load data, and then write a query. You can just write a generic query. Select the column of salary in the dataset name or data table name. You know the aggregate functions like sum, difference, maximum, minimum, right? In this particular case, we wanted second highest salary, so you might have to go with the subqueries here. Now let's see the query so you can understand better. First, you'll have to encapsulate the maximum salary in a subquery. And out of that subquery, you need to write an external SQL query which looks for the salary number, which is less than the subquery. and you will have to limit that to one row, because maybe you'll have 10 entries and you'll just eliminate the maximum, and this particular query will yield you in 9 other rows. You don't want that. You just want one single entry. For that, you just have to add limit 1 so that the output will be generated just for one row. So here is the query. So select maximum of salary, and you can alias that column as second highest salary from employees table, where salary is less than, and inside the subquery select maximum of salary from employees, and out of that you are limiting the number of rows in the result to 1, so that you will have the maximum but less than 1, and the entries will be only 1 out of the all 10 entries. And there are many other ways to find out the second highest salary. So let's take it as a homework and leave us a comment with your answers. Now proceeding ahead, we have the fourth question. Explain the difference between inner join and a left join. Now the answer for this question is, inner join returns only the row where there is a match between both the tables, while left join returns the rows from the left table and unmatched rows from the right table. If there is no match, null values are returned for columns in the right table. Now, this was the difference between both inner and left joins. Proceeding ahead, we have the fifth question, which is the difference between OLTP and OLAP. So firstly, what is OLTP? OLTP stands as an acronym for Online Transactional Processing, and on the other hand, OLAP stands as an acronym for Online Analytical Processing. So the clear differences between both these scenarios is described in the table below. Firstly, the purpose. So we will use OLTP to handle day-to-day transactions, and on the other hand, we will use OLAP for complex analytical queries. Now the second one, operations. So OLTP is regularly used for CRUD operations, which are create, read, update, and delete, and you will be using the insert, update, and delete commands over here. And whereas the OLAP uses aggregate functions and summarizations, which are basically about sum, difference, median, mean, average, average sum, etc. And an example for both of these. So with OLTP, you have banking and e-commerce orders which you place on online. And for OLAP, you have business intelligence, reporting, day-to-day data analytics, operations, etc. And lastly, data model. So for OLTP, you have normalized data entries, and for OLAP, you have denormalized data entries, faster querying. Now proceeding ahead, we have the sixth question. How do you measure the effectiveness of a marketing campaign? Now, this is a little bit of extended version of data analytics. So here, let's say you're a marketing analyst and you perform some marketing for a month, or let's say for a week, and you want to identify the measure of effectiveness of your particular campaign. So for that, what are the formulas that you're going to, follow so that you can absolutely calculate the numbers? Now for that, these are the following formulas you need to apply. Firstly, you need to identify the conversion rate. So conversion rate can be identified by using the total number of conversions divided by total number of visitors to your website into 100, which gives you a percentage or a rate of conversion rate, right? Second one, customer acquisition cost, CAC. So total marketing amount that you had, the budget you spent, divided by total number of customers you approached. That will give you the CAC. Next, return on ad spend. So revenue from total revenue that you earned from ads divided by the total cost from the budget you invested to run those ads. Next one is the CTR, number of clicks divided by the impressions into 100 will give you the CTR percentage. And lastly, the engagement rate, which is the overall engagement you received on your website or web page or a post on your social media sites, the total number of likes plus total number of shares plus total number of comments divided by the total number of followers you already have. That gives you the engagement rate. Now followed by that, we have the seventh question. Can you give me an alternate function to look up? So this is one of the most commonly asked questions in case if the analytics job that you're applying for deals with Excel on a day-to-day basis, right? So whenever you're being asked for this question, give me an alternate to look up, first and foremost, give them one single answer, which is index match. And maybe if someone asks you to mention all the types of lookups, give them H, which is for horizontal lookup, and V lookup, which is vertical lookup, X, which is a combination of both V and H. So XLOOKUP. So there are three types: VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, and XLOOKUP. And if somebody asks you to give an alternate function for all these lookups, go with INDEXMATCH. So the answer is the alternate function to any of the three lookup functions, which is X, V, and H, is INDEXMATCH function. Now we have the 8th question in the list. What are relationships, joins, and blends in Tableau? So relationship is when you have a data set. Let's say you have loaded some sales data on one of the data visualization tools, maybe Power BI or Tableau, then you kind of create a relationship between the data tables, right? You have a sales data. So sales data is not all together in one single data table. So you might be having customer data in a dedicated table, product data in a dedicated table, orders data in a dedicated table, and sales data. You combine all of these based on one single primary key, which might be the order number or customer ID or product ID, and so on. You can establish a relationship between all these tables. So there are types of relations: one-to-one, many-to-one, one-to-many, and many-to-many. 4 different types of relationships. And joins, on the other hand, is something dedicated to the SQL area, where you'll have inner join, outer join, left join, right join, Cartesian joins. There are specific types of table joins there in SQL. Blending is something which is related to Tableau data blending. So one typical answer for all these things is here as follows. Firstly, relationships: flexible, dynamic links between data tables based on common fields introduced in Tableau 2020.2. Joins combines different tables using data source level, inner, left, right, full join, and Cartesian, right? As mentioned, there are a lot of joins. So before you attend an interview, this is a suggestion. Go through all the joins available in SQL. Let's say you just know 4, but those are not the only 4 are supposed to be present in SQL as per your expectations. There might be a few other. Just explore and learn all the types of joins, and for better, safer side, also have an example in your mind to explain the type of join. And coming back to blends, merges data from different sources. So basically, let's say you had to work on the data and your sources are in 2 or 3 or multiple stages. Let's say part of your data is in PDF format, part of the data is in Excel, part of the data is live stream, part of the data is from website. So data blending, what it does is it combines all the sources that you need to aggregate or segregate your data, pulls the data and combines them into one single table or set, which is possible in Tableau. So that is Tableau data blending. Now proceeding ahead, we have the 9th question. What is DAX in Power BI? How is it different from SQL? So DAX stands as an acronym for Data Analytics Expressions, where EXP is just represented as X here, Data Analytics Expressions in Power BI. And how is it a little bit different from SQL? So the answer for this question: DAX is a formula language used in calculations and aggregations in Power BI. So if you go to the Power BI homepage, let's say you've already loaded the data and you're on the charts page or the visualization page, you get 2 kind of options in Power BI: measure and quick measure. So whenever you click on the quick measure, then you get some pre-written expressions or pre-written formulas. Let's say you wanted to find out the average of sales and maximum of sales, minimum of sales for a dedicated product. You have readily available quick measures. And if you have some logical or mathematical function which is totally customized by you, then you would choose to write that particular formula using the measure option. So what you're basically doing here is you have an understanding, you kind of establish an understanding between you and Power BI through mathematical language. That exactly is called as DAX. And differences between DAX and SQL is mentioned below. SQL is used for just querying, right? Just write some condition which can be logical or mathematical, and based on the condition you can just extract that particular data or row of data that you're looking for. And DAX, on the other hand, is optimized for data modeling and creating calculated columns of measures. Let's say you wanted to add an extra column. Let's say you wanted to find out the profit, right? You have cost price, you have the selling price, and you wanted to identify the profit. So simple formula: selling price minus cost price gives you the profit. And if you wanted to add that particular column, then you go to DAX and explain this to your Power BI, and it calculates and add that resultant column as an extra column, naming it as profits. So that is what DAX can do. Now, proceeding ahead, we have the last question from the theory section. What is the difference between live and extract connections in Tableau? So the answer for this question: live connection connects directly to the database and fetches real-time data, best frequently updated data, but can be slower. Now, the second type, extract connection, pulls a snapshot of the data into Tableau's in-memory engine, faster for large datasets, but not for real-time. The second one is maybe considered as a batch processing one, but let's say if you're not quick enough and you try to spend a lot of time on batch processing, just within momentary time periods, maybe like 1 hour or 1 day, the data changes and your report will not stay valid for longer durations. So based on your requirement, you proceed with either live connections or extract connections. Now with that, we have come to an end of this theory part. And after that, let's proceed with the second part. And with the 10th question from the theory part, now we will proceed with the practical part. Now we will continue with the practical questions. And the 11th question in the practical session is as follows. So it's a real-time interview question. And the overall motto of this particular question will be about computing the number of points each team has. So for more details, the description is a little bit too long for this particular real-time question. Let's switch to the MySQL workbench. Now we are on the MySQL workbench, and this is the problem statement. Given a list of matches in a group of stages of football World Cup, compute the number of points each team currently has, and you're given two tables, teams and matches, with the following structures. Don't worry, I'll explain the tables as well, but before that, let's take a look at the description. Each record in the team table represents single football team. It's like an individual or unique football team. Each record in the matches table represents finished match between two teams. Teams, host team and guest team, are represented by their IDs. So basically, if you're a football fan, there are two basic terms of the teams. If you're playing in the home ground, then you're the host team. And if you're playing in the foreign ground, then you're the guest team. No team plays a match against itself. You need to consider this one. Let's say we are team A. Then team A will not play against team A itself. So you need to be a little more realistic here. That's why a specific point has been mentioned here. And you would like to compute the total number of points each team has scored after all the matches described in the table. The scoring rules are as follows. If a team wins the match, score strictly more than the goals than the other team. So you should not tie. If you are scoring 3, then the opponent team should score less than 3, that is 1 or 2 or 0, so that you can be declared as the winner. If a team draws the match, then it receives 1 point each. And if the match is won by you, then you'll get 3 points. And if you lose a match, then you receive no points. So these are the structures for scores. And after that, the output. This is the expected output. You need to have the team IDs here. These are the team names and these are the points. Now, let's look at the structure. So these are our tables. Firstly, the teams table and the matches table. And these are the columns in teams table. Remember the team ID. Okay. So why to remember it? I'll explain you. So in the matches table, we have the match ID, host team ID, and guest team ID. So host team ID, guest team ID are none other than the team ID. The variable name or the name of the column or the data has been changed here, but nothing different. We'll have the same value here. And these are the values, team ID and team name. And here match ID, host and guest, number of goals, the host card, number of goals, the guest card. Now, according to the consideration of description given, no team is playing against each other. And to win, you should score more than the opposite team. And if you tie, you get 1 point. If you lose, you don't get any point. But if you win, you'll get 3 points. Now, that is a problem statement. Now, proceeding further, let's execute this particular statement to see the data in the teams table. Here we have the team ID, give, never, up, you, gonna, right? And let's also check the matches data table. Match ID, host team points, or host team ID, guest team ID, host team goals, and guest team points. Now, let's process with this particular query. So here we are using a case statement to identify or sum up the goals. Host team points and host team is equals to team ID, right? In the matches table, we gave a different name to that particular entry. So if the host team ID is equals to the team ID from the teams table and host goals are greater than the guest goals, then give the point as 3. And if the guest team is equals to team ID and guest goals are greater than the host goals, then 3. So you have given two conditions for both cases, host team and guest team. If team ID is equals to host ID and goals scored by host ID are greater than guest goals, then give them 3 and vice versa. And if host team is equals to team ID and host goals are equal to the guest goals, then you'll get 1 point each. And if guest team is equals to team ID and guest goals are equals to host goals, then 1, right? Two more scenarios for both host and guest, right? So if you tie, you get 1. If they tie, they get 1, right? And if anything else is happening apart from these 4 scenarios, then you'll get them a 0 in case where you lost the match, right? Firstly, host team goals are greater than guest goals, then host team gets 3. If guest team goals are greater than host team, then guest team gets 3. And if host team ties with guest, then 1, or guest team ties with host, they get 1. And apart from all these scenarios, you just select 0 and you give them, or you give it a summation here, you give it an aggregate function and you count the total number of goals and you'll coalesce this as a subquery and you alias it as num or num points. Now you left join with matches table and after that you group by team ID and you order it by descending. Now let's run this particular query. This particular query will be shared with you for better understanding purposes. Now here we have the output. Never gonna give you up. Now with that, let's move to the next question. Next question is based on different data table. We have the Excel data or the sales data here. Retrieve the total sales and profit by category. And for this, let's go back to the MySQL workbench and have a look at the data set and then continue with writing this particular query. Now let's run this particular statement to see our data set. So this is our data set. Row ID, order ID, dates, shipment mode, customer ID, customer name, etc. And the regions north, south, east, west, and central, category, subcategory, product, sales, discount, profit and rate. Everything is here. And according to the question, we need to find out or retrieve the total sales and profit for each category. Now let's go back and run the query. There you go. We are selecting 3 columns here. First column is category. Second column is sales out of all the 4 numbers or 4 columns in the last, which is sales, profit, rate, quantity, etc. And we are aggregating this particular sales inside the aggregate function sum so that we get the total sales, and similarly to the profit as well. And this is from Excel data table. So we are grouping by category and order by sum of sales in descending order so that we can identify which is that one particular category which gave the highest number of sales. So if you run this, you can have the answer right here. So the highest number of sales was given by the technology category, leading after office supplies, and lastly we have furniture. So this is how the sales have been categorized. Let's say you wanted to identify the top 1 only. In this particular case, you can just limit 1, and if you run it, you'll just have 1 row here, which is technology. Now with that, let's continue with the next question in SQL. Now, the 13th question in SQL is find the top 5 most profitable customers. So the query is a little bit similar to the previous one. The difference is we need to find out the premium customers which give us the maximum sale out of the n number of customers we already have. Now let's proceed back to MySQL workbench and execute the query for this. Now here we go. We are selecting the customer ID, customer name columns, profit, and we are aliasing it here as total profit. We can rename, let's say you don't want sum of profit as your column header. In that case, you can alias it with the dedicated name you are looking for and use as keyword to rename it from Excel data. And you're grouping by the customer ID and customer name, and we are ordering it based on the alias name here, total profit, in descending order. Just like we did before, we are limiting to only top 5 customers. Just in case if we don't use the limit 5, you'll get all the customers which we have in our data set in descending order. Since the requirement is only for top 5, we'll go with limit 5. Now let's run this query, and there you go, we have the answer. Customer ID, their names, and the total profit that we earned from their shopping. There you go. Now let's proceed with the next question in SQL. Now the 14th question says count the number of orders per ship mode. So we have a couple of ship modes in our particular data set, maybe the first class, the regular, the standard, right? So we have wide varieties of shipments offered from our sales data. So now we want to find out which shipment mode has got the highest number of orders so that we can prioritize that kind of or that mode of shipping, right? So let's proceed back to my SQL Workbench and write a query for this particular statement or question. The solution for this particular question is as simple as the question. Just select the shipment mode, and here you need to make sure that the order ID is distinct, because from one particular order ID you can get multiple products. So let's say on one single order ID you might have ordered 100 items, right? And for all those 100 items you might have chosen one shipment mode, which is standard. So we don't want that to be happening. So we want just one distinct order ID, and we want the count for that particular order ID. And for that we'll be using the distinct here, and we will alias it as order count from Excel data and group it by shipment mode. And let's say you want to order it by the descending order to find out the highest order count. You can also do it by order by, use the alias name order count here. Done. Let's run the query. Let's first do this. Okay, there has been a small error somewhere. Let's check the columns. Ship mode is what we are looking at. Distinct order ID. Okay, so the thing is we were supposed to take out the underscore here, and fine. Now order by, let's run this. There you go. So same day shipment in descending. There you go. So standard class shipment is the highest one, same day is the last one. So this way you can identify standard class has been the most favorite one for your customer. So you need to more focus on this particular mode of transporting your goods. Now let's go back to the next question in SQL. Now the 15th question for today's session is identify orders with high sales but negative profit. So sometimes you might have sold a particular set of products which are included in maybe like offers, let's say year-end sales, Christmas offer, something like that, just to clear out the inventory. So such type of products might have high sales, but they might have ended up negative profit. So in such situations, we might have to identify those orders. So let's check it out. So there you go. We are on my SQL Workbench right now. And here we have order IDs, customer names, sales and profit from Excel data. We're using profit because here we want to find out the sales is greater than 500, but profit is less than 0, negative profit, as well as at least we need a least number of sales, right? So the threshold we are considering here is at least 500. If the sales are better than 500 but profit is negative, then those are the ones we need to identify. Now let's run this query and see the output. There you go. So there are a couple of order IDs and products which were sold out in discount offer, and these are the ones which gave us negative profits. Not bad. And you can also, kind of order it in descending order. Yeah, it's ordered. So you can find out that one particular thing which gave us the maximum number of negative sales. Now let's proceed with the next set of practical questions that you may be asked in your interview. Now let's move ahead with the next part of today's session, which is about some demo based questions and advanced level questions on Microsoft Excel. So explain some product in Excel through an example. Now let's go back to Excel for a live demonstration. Now here we are on Excel. So here you can see IO, item type and conversions. So we have different number of IOs here, unique IOs. So some are replicated here, and we have about 4 unique item types, and those are also repeated here, and conversions as well. Now I want a pivot table here which gives what type of IO gave me how many number of conversions here. So you can prefer to use a pivot table, but the interviewer wants to understand how good are you with Microsoft Excel. For that you might want to go ahead with using SUMPRODUCT. So here you can see I've already used SUMPRODUCT. So Okay, there's a small mistake here. We have to freeze this particular cell, so use F4 to freeze it. And now press enter first and drag the same formula across all the cells so that you can find the output for display sales or conversions for these IOs. Now let's manually write the sum product formula once again. Select the sum product function from here, and array 1 will be this particular one. Close the bracket, equals to, into, write a parenthesis, select this particular array which is the second one, equals to video, equals to video, and freeze it using function F4 and close the parenthesis, star the last column or array which is a conversion. Press enter, yes, and there you go. Now you can drag and drop this particular function across all the rows and you have the number. Now let's take audio and YouTube for your homework. We will share this dataset with you. And now let's move ahead with the next question in Excel. Now the 17th question. What is Anova in Excel? So analysis of variance, also known as Anova, in Excel is a statistical tool that compares the means of groups to determine if there are any significant differences. It's available in Excel with XLS or Excel Stat software. Now proceeding into the 18th question, data filtering. Now this is a little bit simpler version. So for a beginner level demo based question, data filtering can be asked. Now let's go back to Excel and try to perform some data filtering operations in data. So now we are in Microsoft Excel again. So here the question is, based on the data provided below, write a formula or apply filtering to bring the employee names based on the selection in the drop down. Now select the data, apply filter, and let's say I want to proceed with Hyderabad. In the drop down I'll select Hyderabad. So we have about 3 employees in Hyderabad. You can either do with this way or you can write a filter operation by straight away. So proceeding ahead, we have the 19th question, which is about lookup functions in Excel. So we will be having a data set for this as well. Now let's go back to Excel. Now here we have 2 different tables, revenue data and conversion data. Now what I need is, I want the output to be here in I column. I want the conversions for these products. Now you need to perform the lookup operation for this one. We've got 2 tables, revenue and data, conversion to identify unique key and bring the conversion columns to the revenue table. Now we need to find out that unique column here. So I think line ID could be helpful here. I think this could be a unique ID, what we're looking at. So I'd go with VLOOKUP. Lookup value will be this particular one. Table array, I will go with line item. Line item. The conversion, right? So I'll give the column number 3. And I want the exact match. Close the parenthesis and there you go. Now you can just drag and drop this particular formula to all the cells and you will have the conversion numbers right in the column I. And in case if you find zeros and you don't want zeros, then you can also add an if else formula here, if 0 or if not greater than 0. Then add, we had some text information, we didn't have any conversions here. So that's a homework or that's a discussion for another day. Now that's a discussion for another day. Let's go back to the last question for today's session. Now the last question for today is create a data visualization using the data table provided. So the data table is on the Microsoft Excel. Let's go back there. So here is the data table that we were talking about. We just need to create a visualization for this. Now that's a really simple one. Just go to insert and here you have recommended charts. Now let's go with the cluster column, or you can also go with this one. So I'll go with this clustered column here and press OK. And you can identify the profits and sales made by each and every employee. And this is the sum of variance. Now with that, let's go back to the... And with that, we have come to an end of this session on top 20 data analyst interview questions and answers. So we have covered some theory-based questions as well as some practical demonstration-based questions. If you have any queries regarding any of the topics covered in this session, or if you require additional questions based on the same, then please feel free to let us know in the comment section below, and our team of experts will be happy to assist you as soon as possible. Until next time, thank you for watching and stay tuned for more from Simplilearn.
Staying ahead in your career requires continuous learning and upskilling. Whether you're a student aiming to learn today's top skills or a working professional looking to advance your career, we've got you covered. Explore our impressive catalog of certification programs in cutting-edge domains, including data science, cloud computing, cybersecurity, AI, machine learning, or digital marketing. Designed in collaboration with leading universities and top corporations, and delivered by industry experts, choose any of our programs and set yourself on the path to career success. Click the link in the description to know more.
Hi there, if you like this video, subscribe to the Simplilearn YouTube channel and click here to watch similar videos. To nerd up and get certified, click here.